Welcome to Unpopular Opinion with Mac and Hay, where we're all about challenging cultural narratives with biblical wisdom. We'll dive into tough topics and unpack lies we've been told. So grab your coffee, open your Bible, and get ready to rethink the world around you, one unpopular opinion at a time.
In today's episode, we're going to be talking about something really important.
Communication. Ooh,
What am I thinking about right now?
I don't want to know. I don't want to dig in that mind. I love it. I love it. It's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
But you should know what I'm thinking.
Well, I don't know unless you tell me, but I don't want to be sitting and guessing all day. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you thinking right now? What are you thinking right now? Sometimes you just need to talk about it.
One of my favorite sayings is, I have many talents, but clairvoyance is not one of them. One common misconception that we have about communication is if I don't say anything, my spouse should just know what I'm feeling or need.
I ain't no mind reader. I ain't trying to be a mind reader. And you know what? If you go off of visual emotions, you're wrong. You're wrong. You're wrong. But you can always go to each other and say, hey, I just want to check in. I mean, that's something you can do. But what are you thinking about this? Or what are you thinking about that? Even if it's just a few minutes a day, I think that it's a huge thing because without communication, you have nothing.
One thing I always tell my clients is never should on yourself. Because should sets an expectation, and if an expectation is set and it's not met, then it leads to a resentment.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I think a lot of couples will say, well, they should know what I'm thinking because they spent so much time with me that they should already know what my default is. But the fact of the matter is we don't. I don't always know what you're thinking. You don't always know what song's playing in my head constantly. It's like 5 million tabs open.
For the record, we don't have the same type of music.
No.
Except for Christian. I like classic rock. I can go with that. Anyway.
We're very, very different when it comes to music, but we're also very communicative about it, and we share. Sharing is caring, and we take some time to ourselves if we want to, you know?
Mm-hmm. That's it. Communication, without it, you can't have love, you can't have trust, you can't build a life together. You can't do anything without communication. And it is one of the most, I would say, it's the number one thing in all relationships where they fail. I mean, especially in my past relationships, that was the number one thing was communication. Because if you're in a situation where you probably told me, hey, honey, I need you to do this. Sometimes I have to get things done. Well, it's not sometimes, all the time. I have to do one thing at a time. I'm a one-track mind. So if you give me a list with 15 things, I'm probably only going to do one at a time. And I'm not going to finish the list as fast as you want me to. You know, and I think
Much
that,
to my chagrin.
yeah, because a woman's mind is like, what are we going to eat for dinner? What are we going to eat for breakfast? What time is it? Oh, it's this time.
What do the kids need?
What do the kids need? Yeah, like, because a woman has the capacity, the memory capacity to do all this, as to where mine's like, okay, tell me what you want, what you really, really want, and I'll tell you what I can do. I got a list.
And mine is, yo, here's the story from A to Z. To get with me, you gotta listen carefully.
Exactly. And I'm just like, just give me one thing at a time and I'll succeed. I will. And then, but one thing that a lot of couples that I see don't do is the appreciation that comes with it. And a lot of times men or women will back off because their needs are not met. So, but how are their needs going to be met if they're not communicating this? And then you can get that whole statement. You'll have that statement from a lot of women was, I've been telling him for 6 months to take out this trash. Just take it out right now for 6 months. You know,
Thing.
like,
It's a thing.
and then you get to a point where I'm just not gonna say anything about it anymore. I'm just gonna let it get worse. I mean,
A woman leaves a relationship a lot sooner than a man does because it's an emotional thing. So the woman will say this, she'll harp on it. And that's why you see in the Bible where where it goes into the judge and the evil judge, and he was not following God whatsoever. But this woman kept coming to the judge, and the judge was like, okay, take care of this woman because she's relentless. She's gonna continue. And that's kind of funny because that's exactly how we are. We'll push an issue until it gets done because my mind can't rest until I know it's at least addressed.
but both parties, their needs have to be met.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why I go back to the love languages and things like that. I mean, it's a great thing to know how to love each other, because once you fill that love tank, I enjoy seeing you smile. Like, that is like a euphoric thing to see you light up. So it might be something simple, it might be something big, you know. But when I get that smile from you and that praise from you, because mine's words of affirmation. So if you're telling me, oh, thank you so much for doing this, I appreciate that you did that. You went above and beyond what I really needed you to do. Like, you succeeded beyond that. Like, that's praise for me. And so it makes me want to go above and beyond all the time. At the same time, you have women out there that are like, when are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? About time you did that. Like, boy, let me tell you, like, as a man, if a woman were to say something like that, which has happened past relationships, where you want to try to do better and you want to push further to be what they want, what they want, and you push harder, and then you're met with, it's not good enough. You're not good enough. Men already get that on a day-to-day basis. I mean, you're not good enough. You're not strong enough. You're not smart enough. You don't have enough college. All you are is a laborer. I mean, so when we come home, we need our cheerleader. Every guy wants a cheerleader, and every woman wants, the high school uh, quarterback.
It's funny. Something that you do is you'll put your hat on the hat rack and you'll say, I put my hat on the hat rack. And I'm like, yay! And as funny as it sounds and as childish as it sounds, it works because that's the praise that you're wanting from me. And I get what I want, which is a clean home. And that's turned out all about.
And see, but in that though, and I started doing that, even though I thought it was funny. It, you embraced what I needed. But here's the thing: is I also went above and beyond. Then I went and bought hat racks for my cowboy hats, so I could have my cowboy hats around the office.
Yeah.
So it didn't just stop there. It made me want to do more, so I could say, "My love, I put my hat on the hat rack." And that's the thing, is like, a man is constantly, you should be in constant chase with one another. And, that's,
But it doesn't have to always be physical, right? Because there's communication that happens non-verbally as well. But I think that we sometimes rely on that too much. and we don't use our words enough, even though we're still communicating, or we're using different words than what we actually feel. That's what's coming from us physically.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, well, it's all hand in hand as well. Like physical touch, there's, words of affirmation, there's gifts. I mean, all these are part of the five love languages and stuff. And I really dove into those. Plus, I also used the Love Dare. The Love Dare, I would say that would be more of a book for like marriage fatalities. I mean, it's a step by step on what to do, but it also the movie made a good point to me. It's something I grasped onto was, you know, are you doing it half hearted? Or are you doing it with your whole heart? You know, if you're just doing it to do it and then you roll your eyes because you did something that they want, like you're just half in it. And you don't want to do that. You want to do everything to your full potential. Why is it that men or women give their all 100% at work? They do all this stuff at work. And then when they get home, they're like, I'm just too tired for you. Or I'm just too tired for the kids. Why is that?
That's actually a really big one of my biggest triggers. Um, because it comes off as ignoring, and it comes off as y'all aren't important enough. But the empathy side of me is like, okay, if that happens, then obviously they're very stressed out. And so I need to make sure that they are taken care of, because that's a caretaker in me. That's the people pleaser in me. And it feels that. And that's a very toxic thing. And so there are going to be days where you're going to come home and you're not going to want to be, well, I don't know, but you're always happy.
He's laughing. But
You're always having energy, but there are going to be down days. And those down days, that's when I just say, how can I support you? How can I help you adjust so that way we can connect? Because a lot of the times, if that happens and you'll come home and you'll be like, "Ugh," I want to get defensive and I want to withdraw and I want to be pissy and I want to just have an attitude, and I'll go clean something because I'm upset, and I clean when I'm upset. Um, and so, yeah, that's really interesting as to why men do that. Women do that too, for sure.
well, now it's become more of like the men have kind of always done that scenario. And now a lot of women that work and they work just as many hours as the men, they come home. And so they're looking at it like, why is it my job to take care of the kids? Why is it well, I'm working just as much as you? And she's right. I mean, she's right. Right, wrong, or indifferent, she's right. Now, if she's a stay at home mother, it's a little bit different because that's her full-time job is to take care of the kids, and she does have X amount of hours without them going to school and so on and so forth. So, in that, like the roles would be different. But if you're both working parents and you both come home, it's a shared responsibility. Like if you don't want if y'all don't want that, then you need to communicate that. Like you need to set boundaries for communication, what you want out of this marriage or relationship in general. Because if you're sitting there, you know, say I was to come home and I'm just really exhausted and I've just been like, and you haven't seen me for a day or two and you're wanting me to spend time with you. Well, like that's where we have to give grace and be like, even though I'm tired, it's more important for our relationship to go the extra mile. I've given my all at work. I can't not give it at home because if you take away from at home, what's that? There's a saying, show me your treasures and I'll show you your heart. So, question is do you value your work more or your family?
That is a very thin line, I think, because men want to be providers. But what they have to understand is that God's the provider,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they are a conduit of that. And I think a lot of pressure, especially in these days, is to make the money, provide for the family, make sure that everybody has a roof over their heads and they have food on the table. And I think women have the responsibility in their minds that they have to run everything at the home, and it's a lot of pressure. And if you make it pressure, it's going to be pressure. If you make it serious, it's going to be serious. So you have to have fun with it. Like, where's the joy? Where's the fun? Where's the excitement that also comes in? Because communication doesn't always have to be structured. It doesn't always have to be, well, you're X, Y, and Z, and it follows a specific way. Have fun with it. You know?
Mm-hmm. I do my little Salt Bay thing of steaks. And you can,
Laugh a lot.
yeah,
You know?
live, laugh, love, right? Cliche. At the same time, like, why can't you do crazy things? Like, when I say actively chasing, that's part of it. And like communication, because what you liked 2 years ago may not be like what you like now. I mean, it might be, you might like this food now and you didn't before. How would I know that if I don't communicate and talk to you and, you know, pick that beautiful brain of yours? Like, if I don't do that, then I don't know. At the same time, I don't want to be guessing. I don't want to play guessing games. Like, if every time I ask you a question, I'm met with, I don't know, whatever. If you keep blocking that, if you keep saying, no, I don't know, whatever, like if you're going to bring negativity, most people, men or women, don't want to be in a negative headspace.
Actually, so guessing games are part of contempt when it comes to the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. Have you heard about this? So Gottman Institute, it's in therapy, and um, basically what they say is that there's 4 things that lead to fights. And yeah, okay, whatever. That's a contempt. So I'll just go through these. So criticism is the first one. It's verbally attacking the person or your character. The second one is contempt. You're attacking a sense of self with an intent to insult or abuse. And then there's the third one, which is defensiveness, victimizing yourself to ward off perceived attacks and reverse the blame. And then stonewalling is withdrawing to avoid conflict and convey disapproval, distance, and separation. So basically what they do is like, well, I don't know, whatever, it's cool. It's a deflection.
So it's like fight or flight.
Yeah.
Fight, what is it? Fight, flight,
Fight,
fawn,
freeze,
or freeze.
fawn. Yeah.
Or no,
The 4 Fs.
yeah,
F, 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 F.
the 4 Fs. That makes sense.
Yeah, because if you don't know what you're feeling and you don't know what you like and what you don't like, and this part comes to identity as well. Some people just are indecisive, but the indecisiveness comes from some sort of contempt with either themselves or with you. And that can raise a lot of defensiveness when it comes to communication because they're like, well, you don't care, you're not listening, or, when they really just don't know. So you have to look at the intent behind your partner and say, okay, so why do you feel like you can't decide? Is it just you're overwhelmed right now? Or like, what is it? So Gottman also has the Four Horsemen, but they also have the antidotes to the Four Horsemen. So the antidotes are gentle startup, where you talk about your feelings using I statements and express a positive need. Then you have build a culture of appreciation, where you remind yourself of your partner's positive qualities and find gratitude for positive actions. You take responsibility, which is accept your partner's perspective and offer an apology for any wrongdoing, and psychological self-soothing, which is take a break and spend that time doing something soothing and distraction. But that has to come from the person. You have to first recognize that you are being defensive, and then you have to do whatever the antidote is. So a gentle startup is like, hey, like, what would you like for dinner? How can I help you? How can I support you find what you want for dinner?
elevating each other.
Yeah, and it's not playing games either. The games are, I'm just gonna sit and pout and I don't know what I want.
You should know what I want by now. We've been together for 20 years. You should know what I want by now. No, men do not know this. They still don't know.
Baby, what do I want every night?
Steaks. Like that's about the only thing I could think like I could put in front of you every single night and you'd be like, yes.
What do you think I'm thinking about right now?
There ain't no telling.
What do I always say? It's always
Oh wait, what is it? No, it's tamales. Tamales or steaks?
I'm so offended. It's cherry pie.
Oh, well that too. There's a couple. See? I'm not a mind reader. Right?
Exactly, because we don't have that ability.
And see, that's my point. Like we have to if you don't have communication, if you don't talk about things constantly, then you're never gonna get anywhere. And it doesn't matter like when you first see somebody, you're supposed to chase after them. You're supposed to learn their likes and their dislikes and such. And I learned from there was a book that I read. Basically, think of it as a college education or an education. When you first meet somebody, you're in like middle school, and you're like, oh, that's so cool. Let me learn about it. I'm gonna study. And you get to like high school and you're like, okay, so now we're dating and I've still got to learn about it. But once you get married, let's say you graduate high school and you get married, then you just kind of like, I don't need to learn about you anymore.
That was what that really helped me trust you more, was that you did try and figure me out and study me and learn me. And you knew more about me than I knew about myself at that time, which I thought was really cool because you were a reflection. And I was like, oh, you're right. I don't want tacos. I want tamales. I want chicken. I didn't know what type of eggs I liked. But ladies, just because he doesn't know what you're thinking does not mean that he doesn't care what you're thinking.
Mm-hmm.
He does. He wants to know. Just like we want to know what's on your mind, because what we think is on your mind is either you're looking at other females, or you're thinking about football, or you're thinking about guns. Probably sometimes you are thinking about guns, but it's not all the time. Like, what's in your mind? What do you think about a lot?
I think about you. And I think about like working on the vehicles or, spending time with the kids. Like, so there's a lot of things that I like to do in the now, because one thing in my growing experience is that I learned that you can't change what you did in the past, but you can change how you are in the future by doing what you do now. So stop having anxiety. I mean, the Bible talks about it. It says, don't worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow brings new worries of its own. But anxiety will bring down the heart. Like you really need to be in the now, because every second is precious. And so, I focus on our relationship a lot, because I don't want to go backwards, and it's so easy. And that's why I talk about the seed. It is so easy to backslide. All it takes is like one message from a woman or a man or something like that to be like, what, and then you're like, your shield's up. Now you're planted this seed. Now you're letting that seed grow. And if you don't talk about it, if you don't communicate about it, like, y'all get rid of Snapchat. If you're in a relationship, you shouldn't have Snapchat, period. I don't care if it's for social media purposes. I'm on TikTok. That's the only thing I'm on. But
Snapchat is sketch.
I mean, it's honestly, there's really no reason for a married or someone in a relationship to be on Snapchat. the filters are cool and everything like that, but it opens the door for possibilities. And one thing that I do know is to help ease her mind, you never want to have, always be conscious of everything that you do, to know that how would that look upon you if somebody saw that on my phone or somebody messaged me. It's a way for them to slide in, like, and to add that seed to our relationship, and you should cherish that relationship. So if there's something that's on her phone or on my phone or something like that, like, I don't care if she looks through my phone. Like, I have nothing to hide, and vice versa. But I also give her the respect, and I give her um the
benefit of
benefit of the doubt. Like, I don't sit there and go like, "Hey, let me see your phone. Hey, let me see your phone." Like, honestly, I don't care, because she's never given me a reason to.
Well, to be honest, there's been times on your social media, you have 50,000 followers, majority of them are women, and there are some comments that come through, but I always look at the way that you respond to things, and I always give you the benefit of the doubt because it's how you respond. If some lady was like, "Ooh, that's so amazing," and you say, "Oh, well, thank you so much. Like, I'm so glad that you liked it. Like, what's your name?" That would be inappropriate. But a lot of the times that just boils down to trust, and trust is grown through communication.
Well, I want them to be jealous of you. You should never have a reason to be jealous of them.
Well, jealousy is just not in my nature either.
Well, right, wrong, or indifferent. In most people, it is.
I mean,
Like,
can a seed be planted?
yes.
Jealousy? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I default to, okay, so if something really bothers me, I'm going to talk to you about it. And less is more in communication. Less is more. You don't have to say a million words and throw a million words at the person. Just be very clear, very concise. This is how I'm feeling, and this is what I would like to see happen. And then you just leave it in their court. The ball is in their court, so that way they have a chance to respond, and it goes back to seeking to understand first of what their position is. And if you're feeling a little bit vulnerable and you're feeling a little bit hurt, you should be able to say that to your partner, and they should be able to listen.
But tone, and timing is everything. That is a huge, huge thing, because if you see something that starts to fester inside of you, and then you build up a resentment or anger or frustration, you're going to lash out in one of those ways. So if you say, like, if you see it happen and you're like, is that like, no, who is that just messaged you? Or is it, is it somebody there? And then how they respond, if it's, if it's outlandish, like, why are you worried about it? Why are you looking at my phone? Da, 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 da. Like,
I have a perfect example of this.
hmm.
Should we talk about it? We were just talking about it today. No. What happened in the car?
Oh,
The other day. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Tone.
tone is everything. And what you say and how you say it is everything. So we were coming back from a road trip, and we were listening to
Country music.
country music.
At the same time, I was not listening to it. It was just on.
Yeah. So I have a thing where I just don't like country music. I mean, but I love that you love it and will listen to it because you love it. And I enjoy watching you enjoy it. So I'm just country music out on this time because it's like been 4 hours of country. So I'm like, well, I'm just going to put in my earbuds because I like to listen to my music, and I don't necessarily want you to stop listening to your music, right? And there's some, like I was saying before, there's some songs that I just love to listen into my earbuds because it has that cool little ding, 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 two things that you just can't get in a stereo. I'm weird, whatever. I know this. So I bring it up that I'm like, okay, well, I'm just over country music. I'm just going to put it in my ears, in my earbuds. And you had taken that as what?
That you were ignoring me. And it was the way that you said it. And my feelings were hurt and I was upset because I was thinking we had just been talking and we had a long pause, and I didn't think about the long pause. At the same time, you were like, I'm just going to put my earbuds in and I don't want to listen to country anymore. And I was like, that's rude. Like, we were just talking. We were just talking. And you just like cut me off. I don't feel heard. And I was pretty upset. And I was just holding the steering wheel and I was like, you know what? I could just keep quiet and I just keep looking forward. And then when we went to the restaurant and then we sat down, I was like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk. I told you how I felt. You ain't listening to me.
It was the most awkward pause ever because I was like, he's really upset. And in my mind, I'm like, well, I was just kind of doing my own thing. But again, I could have said it differently. I could have said it in a different tone. And you're like, well, we could just put it on the radio. I'm like, no, I don't really want to put it on the radio because in my mind, I was like, oh, I get to have that.
Yeah, but you didn't just say that. You said,
experience.
I don't want to just listen to that, Len. And I want you to listen to your country. And I was like, I wasn't even listening to the country. And so I was like, not only did I feel like I was getting offended by my music, like die hard, but
In those communication times, there's a lot of context that's missing. And we tend to fill in the blanks with our filters.
you
and our
totally cheated though.
context. I did that.
She cheated. It's because and the only we didn't start talking about it until well after, because we're starting to walk out of the restaurant and she just goes, and I just look at her and I can't be upset. I'm just like, that's not fair.
He's like, I'm really mad. And he's
I wanna talk about
it.
this.
It was so cute.
I want to talk about this. I don't want to just sit there. I don't like sweeping things under the rug, because if you sweep stuff under the rug, eventually it's going to come back. Like, I don't want demons in the closet. I don't want what people see on the outside of us is the same behind closed doors. I don't want that kind of thing. So I want to deal with the situation. I want to uproot that seed and throw it out of our beautiful garden. Because if you can't, we got a bigger problem than just a radio.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, that was more of an icebreaker because you can have an icebreaker. Don't ever sweep anything under the rug because I knew that we could not communicate and talk about it in the states that we were in. You were upset, I was confused, and there was just a lot that was underneath that. So you could do an icebreaker and just come to you. And I did. I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. And I didn't mean the way that it was presented that way. So in that icebreaker, I was also apologizing for my role because it's a two-way street. It's not just somebody else's fault, right? There's some things that we do that contribute to whatever the issue it was. Either we contribute it in a way that we enable the other person to do that, or we accept washy. I mean, it can mean a million different reasons,
And you should never, ever yell at each other.
No.
I mean, because here's the thing. If two people are yelling, ain't nobody listening. I mean, honest to goodness, if two people are yelling, ain't nobody listening, because you're just yelling and you're yelling. And so how are you going to understand or comprehend what that person is saying if it's so loud that your ears are... So honestly, the best thing that you can do if you're upset is actually lower your tone, because it takes, in order to respond, you have to listen. So if you drop your tone and you drop your voice, you can be like, this is really bothering me right now. Like, you can be stern and upset. It's not, I mean, we're human. But there's never any reason to yell at each other, because that also brings up certain people's with traumas, especially if you know that that's a trigger for somebody. Like you don't want to be viewed by that person as as an abuser or anything like that. Like you want to that's your other half and you don't want to yell at your other half. I mean, would you look at yourself in the mirror and scream at yourself? I mean, generally no. I mean, unless you're trying to like psych yourself up for something. I mean, weird people out there.
Can't be your own abuser.
Not recommended. Okay.
There's not just three, but there's some basic rules about communication. One, you have to be clear. You have to be concise. You got to get your point across by being calm.
And don't make jabs. Like when you're in that, don't make jabs. Like don't have a backhanded apology. Don't ever say I love you, but because the love you just went out the window. You just said I only love you because like it's supposed to be unconditional love, and like you're supposed to put your spouse or your significant other above your children. I mean, the Bible is very clear about this, and it doesn't matter if you're in a blended family or it's your own family. You're supposed to put your spouse above your children, and that's a real big problem with. I would say probably 90% of the people that I've been around that are blended families. Like, oh, if he ever did this or did that, well, why would you even consider he'd do that?
Well, the children believe, and I'll be honest and say that I believe this too. Growing up with my parents being divorced in a blended family, I was like, well, I'm here first,
Yeah.
so I matter. But looking back on it now, it's because I wasn't really heard, or I didn't feel heard in the setting that I was in, even in those roles.
But it's very crucial for y'all to have a strong communication, like for us to have a strong communication for the kids. And otherwise, it'll be one pinning one against the other type thing, or it'll lead to situations where one is being disrespected and the other one's backing up the kids, because backing up the kids for that disrespect, which should not happen. And so you both have to be on the same page supporting each other. Like, I mean, I would never let your children or my daughter, I would never let them disrespect you, and it's vice versa. And I would put you first because I also trust that you'll put their best interest in first as well.
Always.
So, but you have to trust that I'm going to do the same thing,
Always.
because if you don't trust that I have the best interest just like you, why are we together? I mean, because a blended family, it's tough. It's very tough on children. It's very tough on the people that are blending in. It's because I mean, the children are looking at, well, why aren't mom and daddy still together? And then you're not my dad, you're not my mom, that kind of thing. And then there's this part. Well, it's also that person coming into their lives. It's their responsibility, in my opinion, to grow that relationship with them just like they grow with the significant other. That's a big deal.
And that takes an incredible amount of communication
Yeah.
and questions of boundaries, finding lines, finding likes, finding dislikes. You have to learn people, and you constantly have to learn people. People change. People change constantly.
Yeah, let a kid hit puberty. I remember my youngin' she started going through that phase, and sweet baby Jesus. Oh, what? Why are you crying? I don't even know. My pants are not as tight as they were. What?
Hormones.
Why are you crying? I don't know. I mean, like, come on, man. Like, yeah, how am I supposed to help you? Oh, and then, that's another thing as far as me. I'm one of those, I got to get it fixed. I got to fix it. And you're not always that way. Sometimes you just want to just, I messed up. This is going down and there's nothing to fix.
And
It's hard for me sometimes.
really important way of communicating up front is just to say, I just need to vent. I just need you to listen.
Yes.
Or, hey, I'm looking for a fix. I'm looking for a solution.
That's hard for me to learn. And I appreciate you for that because I'm always trying to fix it. I want to fix the problem so I can keep you happy. And sometimes it just takes me just sitting there and just listening. And then if you're asking for a response or you're asking for my point of view, then I give it to you. At the same time, I'm not sitting there like, well, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this, you should do that. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, but didn't type thing, It-
When people say, I don't know, I don't believe them because we do know what's going on. It's just a lot to weed through until we figure it out because our whole body is responding to things. So we have answers within us. It's not simple sometimes, but definitely you have to start to dig to figure it out.
Mhm. Kickstarting communication.
Timing is everything. Timing is everything. And then gentle startup. Be like, hey, babe, you got time to talk? It's very simple, but very strategic. And it's not always easy, like I was saying before. Like, we're very simple when it comes to our programming and the way that we respond to certain things, but it could become convoluted when a lot of things are going on. And and today we're really busy on everything, so it's finding the time, it's gently starting up and then being clear, being straightforward to the point of what you need as well. And no assumptions. You can't assume that they already know what you're talking about. It's kind of funny because sometimes we'll be in the kitchen or something, and then you'll be like, yeah, she told me this, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, who's she? What are you talking about? And you're like, oh, yeah, this person called me because sometimes we have these internal conversations in our heads that we don't really communicate the backstory. So we're like talking to ourselves in our heads and we're like, da, 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 da. And then we pick it up and we communicate verbally with the other that we're at this part of the story, but we didn't get the backstory. So it's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, just talking about spaghetti, and you're talking about
Yeah.
a conversation that you had with a person. And so that's the moment where you can either get defensive or you can laugh about it. And we often choose just to laugh about it, laugh it off, and be like, oh, okay, let's restart the conversation and be a little bit more clear and just ask clarifying questions. If you don't understand something, that's okay. But it also comes a point where there has to be safety in both people. Like, you have to create a safe space for me in order for me to feel safe enough to share. I have to create that safe space for you in order for you to share. And if we don't do that, then communication breaks down and nothing really can be resolved at that point.
Yeah. And see, I would say don't be afraid to communicate. Like you can't be afraid to communicate because love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, but it does not hold record. And so if you've got a situation that you need to talk about and it's festering inside of you, one way or the other, it's going to come out. Now, how you bring it up or how it comes out is up to y'all. So I would say listen, not to combat, but listen to hear and to grow. Because
Let me
you
teach you something real quick. We listen.
and we don't judge. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for listening to Unpopular Opinion with Mac and Hay. If you loved it, rate this show, take a screenshot, share it out on social media. Be sure to follow and tag us for a shout out. We love hearing your stories and how our show has impacted you.